Yo, what's good, everyone? This is AEO Boxing with Madiba, and we're here to talk about Errol Spence's eye surgery. So, news broke yesterday that Errol Spence Jr. had cataract surgery, and this was major news for several reasons, mainly because it's his second eye injury on the same eye, but also this is the first time we've seen Spence in the public eye, and most importantly, being active on social media. He revealed the surgery on his Instagram story and would then follow up with several tweets on Twitter. But what caught everyone's attention was Spence alluding to the fact that his eye affected his performance when he lost to Terrence Crawford this past July, stating that the surgery was past due and that the cataracts was the reason why he got hit so much by jabs and hooks. And many people see this as Spence making an excuse for why he lost. In my opinion, I think Spence is telling the truth for the most part, but I still think he's making excuses for why he lost. Because if you remember, Spence said no excuses right after losing to Crawford. So him coming out now, talking about his eye, is contradictory to that. But the question is, why now? Why have the surgery now? Why talk about his cataracts now? Because this messes up the timeline for the Crawford-Spence rematch. It was originally supposed to happen this past December, but most people expected for the fight to happen the first quarter of 2024. Cataract surgery takes at least 8 weeks to heal. Then there's the recovery training, the promotion for the rematch, and the actual training camp. The rematch won't happen until the summer at the earliest. And this wait will affect Crawford the most. So it goes back to the question I just asked, why now? I have two theories. The first theory is that Crawford actually injured Spence's eye and Spence wanted to hide it. This theory is something that I saw on the comment section of YSM Sports Media, so shout out to Tony Coney 7666. This theory may seem far-fetched, but it caught my interest because there's some circumstantial evidence that gives this theory some basis. The first piece of evidence is Spence's first eye injury. Spence had to pull out 11 days before the Manny Pacquiao fight because of a left eye retina surgery. Many people feared that his eye would never be the same because most fighters aren't the same after those retina surgeries. I don't know if retina tears can cause cataracts. Apparently, they're in different parts of the eye, but there could have been residual effects or further complications after the surgery. Regardless, Spence took a lot of damage in the Crawford fight, specifically took a lot of jabs and hooks to the head. So it's possible that Spence damaged his left eye again in that fight, requiring him to get surgery again. But even if this theory is true, which I'm not saying it is, it still does not give a good enough answer to the question of why now. However, my second theory answers this question, and that theory is they need to build a way to sell the rematch. This is something I've heard Showbiz talk about, and it makes a lot of sense because of how dominant Crawford was in the first fight. No one wanted to see the rematch. People wanted to see Crawford fight other people while the conversation around Spence's name died down. And with Spence going absent for 5 months, there was no real interest from the fans. The only conversations surrounding Spence were the post-fight excuses made by people, and there were several excuses. The initial excuses were that Spence was weight drained and not the same due to the car crash and eye injury. Then it was Spence had a rib injury going into the fight, and the latest was Spence ran a mountain the week of the fight and depleted himself. And every time we heard a new excuse, fans talked about Spence and the rematch. It was like these excuses were slowly building up a narrative to promote the rematch. And with Spence coming out with the surgery, the fan interest is at an all-time high since the fight in July. Crawford even tweeted about it. So maybe it was a calculated move for Spence to have his surgery now, and if so, it was a smart move. But once again, this is all theory and speculation. It's more than likely that Spence just needed surgery and was holding off on it because he didn't want to derail the Crawford fight. Regardless, this still puts Crawford in a bad position. He's obligated to fight Spence next due to the contract. From my understanding, he can't fight no one else, so he'll be on the shelf until then, which sucks because Crawford is getting older and inactivity is not good for a boxer. Maybe he can negotiate with Spence to allow him to fight, but I doubt it. But who knows, this is boxing, anything can happen. But thank you for tuning in with AEO Boxing from Madiba. Hit like, subscribe, and more content's coming your way.